Welcome back to Switch to Linux. Well, today I want to talk about the best first step when you want to switch to Linux is not to just abandon everything and just switch immediately to Linux. That sounds like it's the best thing to do to switch to Linux. Go cold turkey. The problem with that approach is that we get a situation where some of the software is not working the way that you might want it to work. And this raises a couple of fundamental problems. So since I have this Windows machine that I'm in the process of prepping up with Linux to send out to a friend, I thought I'd go ahead and use it and talk about what your best first steps are. So let's have a look over at the Windows system and talk about what you basically do. Now, I am a web developer, and so what I want to do is I want to make sure that I can do some graphic editing. I want to make sure I can browse the web. I want to make sure I can manipulate the files I need to manipulate. And so what I've done here is I've installed some of the alternative software that I've used. Now, to be fair, when I came back and first switched to Linux, I was still using Windows. I had a full Adobe Creative Suite license. I had the full Microsoft Office license. Everything was all professional in that front. But I started looking over at Linux and saying, well, how can I port my whole web design process over? And fun fact, the first computer I ported completely over to Linux was actually a Raspberry Pi. Yeah, I switched over to my Raspberry Pi running Manjaro, which pretty soon we're going to be upgrading that to a Raspberry Pi 5. So stay tuned to see how that works as a web design computer compared to the Raspberry Pi 4. But I had this software, and of course, naive me, I'm like, here's Linux. I got this Linux Mint. It looks amazing. Let's go ahead and get my software running on it. So I literally tried to install the Adobe software suite on the Linux computer, and it didn't work well. Even with Wine, I'm like, why wouldn't it run? The reality is we need to look for the alternatives. You see, I don't need to use Photoshop to edit an image. I need to edit an image. And so you have to ask this question, what software do I use? What is the chief end? And what can I do with that on Linux? Now, let me qualify this. You might have a job that specifically dictates you have to use Photoshop. If that is your case, well, you're going to have to keep a Windows machine or at least a Windows VM around to run Photoshop on your circumstances. So that really is limiting it down. But me as a private contractor, I have never had a project where somebody says, well, I need your source Photoshop layered files. The rare cases I've had where people are like, what sources can we do? I say, I'll give you the GIMP file because GIMP is an open source application. It can do nearly everything Photoshop can, and it can be freely installed on any operating system without having to pay a big licensing fee. And so, being an Adobe Photoshop expert when I started, GIMP was harder to work with. And so I had to move over to that software and see how to make it work. So what I did is I took the time, I said, okay, these are the tasks I do in Photoshop. How do I accomplish the same tasks in GIMP? And now I am an expert at GIMP. Probably not so much in Photoshop anymore because I actually haven't used Photoshop in production in at least 3 or 4 years at this point in time. So I've probably forgotten a lot. You'll have to forgive that. But let's go ahead and have a look at the Windows computer. And I have GIMP installed over here. Again, this is a free and open source software package. You can freely install it on Mac, on Linux, on Windows. In this case, of course, we are doing it on Windows. So what is the point of this? The point of this is not to abandon your current system. The point is to add the alternatives to your current system and your workflow so you can learn how to do the various things. That way, when you do finally switch, everything is going to work out fine. So here, of course, is the main GIMP layout. Here's a new image. We can do our advanced options. You can set your resolutions, your image size, the types of backgrounds. We have over here, we have our various elements of your system. Here's your brushes, patterns, fonts, history. And then over here, what is this? Channel, layers. We have channels, we have paths. And then there's a ton of extra tabs that you can add onto your system. So this can really do, other than some of the absolute latest and greatest AI features, GIMP's going to do it. So what does this mean? Well, what this means is that if you need to do some image editing, particularly if you are an independent person, you just need to edit an image. You don't need to Photoshop an image. You notice how they have moved our language in that way. It's the same thing. We use the word Google all the time. What does the word Google mean? It means to search something on the internet. And I have done a good job of breaking myself of the habit of saying I'm going to Photoshop an image. I'm going to edit an image. I don't say I'm going to Google something. I say I'm going to search the internet for something, because it moves us away from these big companies that are really seeking to become part of the zeitgeist that gives all of our data to them. So you might need to do Office Suite. So I installed the full LibreOffice software suite on this computer. LibreOffice is an amazing software suite that can do literally anything that Microsoft Office can do, many instances better. The reason is the open document file type that it uses by default has more features than the docx file. Now that also means it's a bigger file size, and I will warn you, if you are going to be doing a lot of communication and working back and forth with people on different projects, you might want to get used to saving things in the docx format and using that, just so you don't have any weird headaches. I had a case where I'm doing this right now. We're in the process of a big web design, redesign for a big company site. And we brought in a new editor, and she first sends me like, on this page, do this. I'm like, okay, this is gonna become a nightmare really fast. I said, here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna take all of the content from the website. I'm gonna put it in one document. I'm going to send you that one document. I want you to turn on track changes. I want you guys to all in the back end edit all you want. Send me back the final edits for all of the updated content. That way I can go in, I can use the review feature, I can easily find what section, what page, and make all of the required changes to the document, having everything tracked by all the different people in the company. LibreOffice does all that perfectly fine. But knowing I'm dealing with normies in this case, what I did is I went on and I created the document by copying all the website information into the document, used good page breaks in order to break apart the pages, and then I saved it as a docx file format with Times New Roman font, because they knew they would have the font, they have the docx file format, they can turn on track changes, and then when they first did the first test round to make sure they knew how to use track changes and they sent that back to me, guess what? I opened the doc in LibreOffice, turned on my review changes, and I was able to see exactly who made exactly what edits and exactly where they were. I've accomplished everything I needed to accomplish. Now, why do I like LibreOffice over other alternatives like OnlyOffice? LibreOffice also has the in-depth you need to do advanced document formatting. We're talking such advanced stuff that Microsoft Office can't even do. I produce all of my books in LibreOffice and GIMP. GIMP for the cover designs, LibreOffice for all of the interior layouts and designs. Usually you would need a third-party software for that. LibreOffice does it all great. Now, LibreOffice itself has with it all of the features you need of the full Office document. We have our writer documents, we have our spreadsheets. Let me go back to this guy here. We have our presentations. We have a drawing application, which allows you to do manipulations of things like PDF files. It allows you to create active forms, active form PDF files. We have math formulas. We have the full databasing suite. This is the thing you used to have to pay a lot of extra money to do. This is built into LibreOffice, the full databasing features. So that is all there. So this is all really good. How do you find these alternatives? So what we're going to do is, you'll notice I'm using Firefox, not other things. We're going to go ahead and we're going to go to a site called alternative2.net. So this is a master listing of thousands of applications that people are using on a day-to-day basis, and you can find alternatives based on different software. So let's just type in Word, for example. So if we go in and we type in Word, oh, you must be talking about Microsoft Word, a paid proprietary project, something that you may not necessarily want to use if you are looking at switching to Linux. So you pull this guy off, and then you can see all the information here. You click to the Microsoft Word alternatives. And then once you get into that, then what you can do is you can go ahead and you can sort it by different license types. Are you not opposed to paying money, but you just don't want to pay it to Microsoft? You can go ahead and do that. So here's your various filters. You can say, you can even go in and I'm sure you can, there you go. You can hit the license for paid. You can hit the license for open source. You can hit the license for free. Now, free and open source are not mutually exclusive. Open source means the code is available. You may or may not have to pay for that code to see it. Free means you can use it without paying for it. You may or may not have access to the code. Free and open source means it is both free and you have access to the code. So you can go in and look at what your options are. So if you're saying, I want to switch to Linux. So let's go ahead and choose Linux as our platform. And then as we've done Linux as our platform, now let's say, okay, well, let's go ahead and add, I want a open source because I'm kind of moving towards this movement of being free and open source. All right, so let's go ahead and have a look at what our options are. Look at this. LibreOffice is your first option that we have. That's the software I already looked at. We also have other options as well. Here's Apache only OpenOffice. This is what LibreOffice was based on. OpenOffice has not been updated nearly as much. You can see last major release was 2014. You have OnlyOffice as an option. This one here actually matches the look and the feel of Microsoft Office a little bit better. I personally have found it still a little limited in its features and functionality, but it is a good alternative, particularly if you know you're dealing exclusively with people with DocX. OnlyOffice, and you're only doing basic Word documents, spreadsheets, and presentations, OnlyOffice is a good option for that. Now, warning, we did a video recently showing that there is a lot of weird data collection going on in the background, so be aware of that. We have AbiWord, we have manuscripts. You can look into all these different things. You can click on the item over here, and you can click on the website down here to see what here's their there's alternatives. Let's see, here's the official website for Stark. So you can go ahead and do your research. So let's use, for example, another one of Illustrator. Okay, so I need to use Adobe Illustrator for something. Now, I'm not under full employee of a company that probably has given me a computer, so I'm going to use whatever they hand me. And if I go ahead and say Adobe Illustrator alternatives, let's go ahead and filter, and let's say I'm going to switch to Linux. So let's see what options we actually have over here. So go ahead and do that. And the first one that pops up is called Inkscape. So unlike Illustrator, Inkscape is completely free and open source. It's scalable vector graphics, SVG graphics, in the native format, which is exactly what Illustrator is. You can import a wide variety of files, SVG, PDF, EPS, CDR, even AI files. You can do that. Oh, well, that's neat. So let's go ahead and have a look at Inkscape's actual site here, if I can remember exactly, because that's an ad. It's just this computer does not have an ad blocker installed. There's giant ads all over the place. I kind of want to see that. Let's go ahead and I think we have to click in on the project itself. And then when we do that, now we can go down and we can have a look at the official website. Oh, you can get it from Microsoft. So it might actually already be in the Microsoft store. I don't know. Let's go ahead and have a look. I actually downloaded it prior to doing this, so I didn't have to wait for download it. Let's go ahead and search for Inkscape. Oh, look at that. Inkscape app is here. So we can click on this. We can hit the Get Inkscape, and it looks like we're installing Inkscape through the Microsoft Store. Great. Saves me an individual step. I was actually just going to go ahead and download the MSI file and things like that. So I downloaded a couple different files already. So here's Inkscape. I already downloaded it, but it looks like we're going to download it from the store instead. That's probably a better option if it's there. LibreOffice is available in the store. You need to pay for it. Of course, that's going to give Microsoft a portion. Decide if you want to do that. You can always go directly to the website, download it for free, and then pay LibreOffice whatever you want to, if anything. I also downloaded an application called Bluefish. This is what I use to do editing of my websites. Now, Bluefish And LibreOffice, pretty much anything external, it's going to give you scary looking warnings when you go to install it without the store. Ooh, I'm scared. And of course, Microsoft is going to protect you from your own freedom. And so let me just go ahead and open this up. See, look at this. Oh, Lord. You wanted to make changes? Yes. And then we actually got a scary red screen from Windows Defender as well. I'm just going to skip that because I've already... Yes, I want to skip. Sorry, I wasn't reading the screen there. Oop, did I just close my store? Let's see, did Inkscape actually install itself? Let's have a look. I might have accidentally closed the store before it finally installed itself. Dude, what are you doing? All right, this is why I don't like Windows. All right, let's go with Inkscape. Okay. Okay, so it's still downloading. Okay, that's actually, we're going to stop that because that's why I downloaded it beforehand, so I didn't have to download a 185 megabyte file. We'll just go ahead and install it from here because I already downloaded the file. So go ahead and download the file. Now, warning on Windows, of course, if you're downloading something from the internet. If it's available in the store, you might think about downloading it from the store because it's going to save you from possible what we call malvertising. People are buying advertisement which proposes to be real software and it's not real software and it can redirect you to the link. Now, I knew exactly what Inkscape's website was, so I went and downloaded the correct copy directly from the company itself. So I knew exactly what it was going to do. So here it's asking me, do you want to go ahead and do this? And we'll go ahead and let it do its install thing here. And so what we're going to get now is we're going to get the Inkscape application installed on our system. And once we have that, now we can do things with the SVG graphics. So the point is here, when you're looking at switching to Linux, it's not good to go cold turkey. You want to keep your production and workflow going, particularly if funds are limited and you want to learn what software you're going to use first. Think about not the software you use, think about what the task that software accomplishes. And then as that software is accomplishing its task, then what you want to do is you are going to want to then look up the alternatives. And if it's available also for download on Windows, and many of these applications are, download it on your existing workflow so you can experiment with getting the system working right. So let's go ahead. That looks like it's done installing. So here's our Inkscape app. So we'll go ahead and open that guy up and we'll have a brief look at what that looks like, I hope. This is why Windows is, I mean, this is a really good computer too, and Windows is just a little slow. All right, let's see. Appearance. We can do colorful, grayscale. We can do light or dark. Okay, let's go ahead and do that. Thanks. New document. Let's go ahead and get that guy opened up. And here's what your Inkscape platform looks like. So again, just like Illustrator, it's going to be a little bit different, but it is going to be able to accomplish all the same tasks. And if you're already familiar with one, for example, I'm not an expert in Inkscape. I can make my way around it. I can do some things with it. I'm not an expert in it. GIMP, I'm an expert in. So with GIMP, since I already knew Photoshop, the learning curve for GIMP was way lower than if I just picked it up out of the blue. Inkscape's gonna be the same. If I had a larger knowledge of Adobe Illustrator, I could figure out Inkscape way faster, but I never picked up a ton of extra knowledge on AI. So in that case, I'm not going to pretend to go through there. I'm just trying to show you here that you can get the alternatives. But that was really nice. We can get it directly from the Microsoft Store, or we could have gone to the official website and download it. And this is what I did earlier today. I just clicked the download button, clicked the current stable, and then it automatically redirected me to the Windows system because it detected that I'm over here on Windows. And so that is really what your task is going to be, is when you are looking to switch to Linux, you don't want to go cold turkey. You want to stop and say, what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch to Linux by starting with looking up the applications that I need to do. I'm going to then move towards installing alternatives that are available not only on Windows, but also on Linux. I'm going to learn how to use the Linux versions. Now, some software packages they work everywhere, and I've been using them like FileZilla, zero learning curve. I used FileZilla for years on Windows, and it's also on Linux. Firefox is the same way. Email was a little different. Now, if you're using Thunderbird for email, it's the same on Windows and on Linux. But I actually like the style and the look of the old Outlook, and the new Outlook is an abomination, especially the new Outlook, total abomination. I like the old style of Outlook, Office 2007 era. That was, in my opinion, the best version of Outlook. Well, wouldn't you know it, on Linux, there's an application called Evolution, which exactly mirrors that. Oh, it's like the godsend to me. So it does all my calendars and my contacts. It syncs to my Nextcloud, all that kind of stuff. It's all easy to do. But here's the overall principle of this video. Don't switch cold turkey. Start by learning the apps. Go to thatalternative2.net, and there's other websites that do the same thing as well. Look up the apps you're currently using and see, number one, are they also available on Linux? Or if not, what are other alternatives that I can use instead? So those are what our thoughts are and our tips. Stay tuned for more videos coming up where we're going to do more fun things with this Windows computer before I finish it all up and ship it up to my friend with Linux on it. So if there's anything else I should do with this Windows computer, let me know. Although I'm thinking right now I might actually just use one of my spare hard drives floating around, install it on my main streaming computer if I'm able to, and do some of the stuff over there so I can get this computer out to my friend. That is kind of priority, so we'll see what we can do from there. With that, guys, thank you for watching. Subscribe to the channel if you've not already done so. Hit that like button, or hey, that dislike button if you want, and leave us a comment down below. Thanks for watching, and I hope that you enjoy switching to Linux.